University of Man. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get ready to rumble from the West Coast to the left coast. We call it the best coast out there, Los Angeles, California.
Hey, and from the south side of the Shy, baby, you got Fred Abernathy. Midwest is holding it down. What's up, man? Welcome to University of Man, where you got two brothers talking about manhood from the Christian's perspective. My guy, what's up, man? I ain't seen you or talked to you in a minute. Heard you was out in Vegas getting awards. What's going on, man? What's happening?
Even Las Vegas, man. I'm telling you. Listen, we went to the second oldest. I gotta find it where it is, but the second oldest restaurant in Vegas, and the food was, I'm on this keto stuff, so I can eat a whole bunch of meat, right? So
right.
Steak was good, the lobster was good. I'm telling you, man, I felt like I was back in the day playing football. You remember how we used to have the training table and crab legs, cracking crab legs and stuff, shrimp. It was crazy. So. Before we get done, I'll make sure we put that out there. That restaurant is fire. I think it's a 3-month wait to even get in there.
During 3 months?
Yes.
That's crazy.
But somebody said it was for free. So my wife and I were there, and it was real good. So
if it's for free, it's for me, baby.
It's for free, it's for me. Perks are doing good things with good people, right?
Absolutely, man. So look, man, did you hear about that NBA deal?
Which one? You talking about TNT?
The TV deal? Yeah. $300 billion?
It's something crazy. And TNT, they basically said, you know what? We can't let this go. This is our money maker. So we're going to go and match the deal from Amazon.
Man.
And actually stay in the game. And the NBA, I believe, has to make a decision or to split it so that they can keep together Charles Barkley, Shaq, and Chuck.
Well, Chuck is retiring.
I don't think he's retiring. I think
what is his name? Chuck or Ed?
Charles Barkley.
No, not Charles Barkley. The other guy, the older guy,
Kenny the Jet. Or are you talking about the? No. He said
non-basketball player.
He said, "I'm not going anywhere," because remember he lost his son.
Oh,
his son was quadriplegic. His son. He's a lifer at TNT. So he wasn't going to go anywhere else. I think that's what he was saying. He was going to retire with TNT. But I believe as long as they have the rights to the NBA, they'll still keep that.
And show. Then, what do you think about them offering the WNBA $70 billion and they're not satisfied?
They shouldn't be.
Why? They haven't made a profit yet.
Brother, the marketability right now is back in the day where Magic Johnson and eventually Michael Jordan, who was Juju Watkins, comes on, and this is going to be something like. Did you see the All-Star game where they play USA versus the WNBA All-Stars?
Absolutely.
And the WNBA All-Stars, the USA team that they put together, thought it was bomb.com.
Yeah,
man, listen, that was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
I actually got called to the carpet because I was like, if I like the WNBA, am I a groupie? Like, I don't want to feel like that, right? And somebody was like, that's sexist. I was like, ooh. But, I mean, initially, you don't want to feel as if you're watching something just because of somebody's looks or whatever the case is. And originally, that's how it was posed to men.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're watching the WNBA for somebody's looks, but they have skills. So
they definitely have skills. So, but my point about them not making a profit is when – you know how NBA, you probably got 70% of men watching at least 1 or 2 games a week, maybe 3. When do we see the population of women watching more WNBA games? And with only 12 teams, it should be more profitable. It should be at least in the black this year. And Caitlin Clark's team makes up 30% of the revenue of the WNBA. Come on, man. They gotta step it up and start, getting that viewership and getting people to come to the game. Like, I feel like it's enough. And especially with a female running for president right now, like literally it's a great time in America to be in women's sports and women politics, all that. So I just think they need to put their
you ready?
Where their mouth is.
You ready?
Yeah.
You ready to go to the third rail?
What's that?
You ready?
Yeah.
there's individuals that don't want to have to explain to their children the LGBTQ plus community, and WNBA represents, I believe, over half of that community within their organization. So you have predominantly Black women,
Ooh,
over half LGBTQ plus. Brittany Griner,
yeah,
there's a lot there to
yeah.
unpack. So when you see somebody that's a clean cut, disrespectful to this woman, Caitlin Clark, but that's a positive role model in the community, sort of
Mm-hmm.
has the boyfriend and going the straight and narrow, and then Angel Reese, you've got something that you can actually show, but
Right.
there's a conversation that has to be had before you have these conversations, because you got people. This is better than was it the divorce court? Man, you got
Yeah.
people playing each other. This is her girlfriend. Now her girlfriend's playing for another team, and they're playing on the All-Star game against each other. And like,
Yeah.
where's Judge Wapner at, man? It's a
Right.
lot
Right.
to unpack. So what you said has to be unpacked within the community to be able to actually have the rights to be able to say, I want to take my kids to this.
There you go. So that's what it is. Hey man, lately we can get a lot of calls and questions about, me and you both are in the financial sector, financial world, insurance, all of that, financial planning, things of that nature. I've had some people ask, why haven't y'all done a show about this infinite banking that we're hearing on TikTok and all of that? And I had to tell them, like, look, yes, this is what we do. But there's some reasons why we don't really just talk about it, because we got certain licenses, because this is what we do professionally, that just talking about it on the podcast, we can lose our license.
Yes.
And I don't think that you're willing to gamble your license away with it.
No, sir.
And I'm definitely not willing to gamble my license away with it. But I do think it's worth a conversation about inheritance and leaving something for our kids biblically, because the Bible definitely says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, not just for your children. You're talking about your children's children, those are your grandkids. So how do we put, as men, because this is University of Men, and if there are women listening, which we know we got some women that listen to the podcast, and we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for being on the line and checking us out. But how do we as men leave an inheritance for our children's children in today's society with everything?
Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just.
The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just.
Most people don't get to the back part. They just saw children's children like they stop. But the wealth of a sinner is laid up for the just. Is it weird how sometimes you have a lot of people that make more money, or they're very lucrative, and somebody says they're part of the Illuminati. They might be a part of this. They might be a part of that, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not what I'm serving. My God is better than that. And sometimes you got to go through a couple of struggles to get to where you're supposed to be. And you're asking God, why you do, but you're not asking anything other than, what do I need to learn next? Because in every adversity is a seed of greatness, if and only if you look for it. And there's so many people that don't look for the seed of greatness, because you're in a position where you constantly have to pass through tests, and those become your testimonies. So how do I get through situations that my children are about to go through, and they need to see me go through that in order to be able to live their life and my generations be great? It's just not about money, man. It's about a mentality. And if you can give your children's children the mentality of a Lewis, of an Abernathy, of we don't quit, well, no disrespect, we ain't no punk. Like, we get through things. We do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Now, going back to humility, most people want to say, be humble when you win. Why do I have to be humble with what God gave me, though? Because it's not humility. It's something that's saying that we're the same. We are the same, but God gave you a different gift than me. And when your horn toots for that gift, I'm going to clap just as if you clap for me. So you have to really give God the glory and make sure that you utilize your gifts and don't just bury them in the sand.
So that was going to bring me to the talents. Yeah. When God the master gave the talents to the three, he gave 1, 1, 1, 5. I mean 1, 1, 1, 2, and 1, 5. And the 2 and the 5 came back multiplied. And the ones the dude buried his. And the master got mad. Like, you didn't make no investments. You didn't do nothing with it. And he took it and gave it to the guy with the 10. Yeah. So what I always like to allude to is, in one of my favorite scriptures, is faith without works is dead.
Hello.
So you can have all the faith in the world that you're going to be a millionaire, your kids are going to be taken care of. But if you don't put the work in to get there, that's dead. So, and I didn't say that. You can't be mad at me. I didn't write that. I'm just repeating what the good book says. Faith without works is dead. So just like you said, what we leave to our children's children is what to do with the money, how to reinvest the money, how to keep your lineage going. If you don't leave that, it don't matter how much money you leave, because just think about all the star athletes that end up being wealthy and broke in the same century. Like, how does that happen?
Let's work with this. It's no coincidence that in the Old Testament they talked about a tenth of whatever you make, and then the New Testament it said give, feel freely to give, etc. But if you go with the old, just work with me for a second. If you're supposed to give a tenth to the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you supposed to give a tenth to yourself because you're marrying what He's given to you? So that tenth should be your investments minimally.
Absolutely.
And then he talked about making sure that you have enough to be able to give blessings to others. So if you have a gift of farming and you have a silo that's full of extra stuff, just like in Egypt, etc., back in the day, they were able to get past the famines to help out other people and pass on good things to other people just because they had extra. So you have to have extra in your bank accounts. You have to be in a position where you can give freely to others versus worrying about yourself. So that's 20% right there off top. So you should be able to, if we're talking about 20% already, then that means that you have to budget out the rest of your 80%. So what part of that, and I saw something great. I think it was Bishop Noel Jones. He talked about we should stop trying to tell people. Somebody came to Bishop Noel Jones and they said, I think he was a rabbi or something like that. He's like, stop asking for tithes. He's like, what? Stop what? Asking for tithes. He's like, because you're not equipping your people to be able to give tithes if you're not going to give them a course about budgeting. Wait a minute.
What? Hey, huh? That's strong. So as a man, as the leader, the head of my household, you're saying that if I'm going to live this life the way of biblically, and I'm going to give a tenth to God, I'm going to give a tenth to myself because I should be paying myself like I'm, giving to God, and I need to be able to budget. Because that word almost sounds like a curse word in some communities. No. I need to be able to budget my lifestyle off the 80%, which means that instead of going to the dealership saying that I make $40,000, no, I need a car where I'm making 35, and I can. But the American way it's always been weird to me how you can buy things off credit based on what your potential is to make, not what you have in the bank. So you say, well, yeah, I make $80,000 a year. You don't have $80,000 in your bank account, but you're saying I make $80,000 a year. So these people give you this loan based on what you're potentially going to make. But what happens if that job goes away, you get terminated, the company closes, and you're still on the hook for this loan? Have we put in place, because one thing we didn't talk about after this 80%, don't you need an emergency fund there, sir? What happens when an emergency happens?
Remember when we talked about the famine?
Like, yeah, the famine.
Your silo should be full.
Absolutely.
Right? Your bank account should be full. they should be in a place where you should be able to get to the next season without having to have a harvest for this season.
Absolutely. Ooh. So, and I tell people, especially guys, when you're starting off with your emergency fund, the first level, in my opinion, should be the level of your highest deductible. So if you have a home and your deductible is $1,000, you should at least have a minimum of $1,000 in your bank account so that if something happens to your home, you can pay that deductible. Or if you don't have a home, you got a car with a $500 deductible, you should have at least $500. So now you can get your car back. Man, you talk about people have accidents, they car in the shop, and they like, man, they fixed my car, but I got to come up with this $500. What you mean you got to come up with it? Like,
but
we have to put those
I hate to say this. We got to catch them as children. Sometimes men and adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are so enthralled in what they've done and what they're going to do that they can't even see the hope of being able to have an emergency account or silos being full, because all they've been indoctrined to do from their family was work until they're dead. There is no hope. The hope is keep the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think God made this amazing gift called life a little bit better than keeping the lights on and working for somebody else for 8 to 10 hours a day to go do something for them and make their dreams come true. So, you know, if you don't teach your children, they'll follow what you do. And if you're scraping at the end of the month all the time to do things, what are you teaching your kids? And you're like, well, that's just how it is. It doesn't always have to be that. And listen, I am not passing judgment on anyone because I've been on both sides of the tracks a whole lot more than I wanted to be.
Man.
But when it's all said and done, your personal finances, your budgeting, it has to be something that you teach your kids. We play this game called life. We play other stuff. We play budgeting games and make sure that if you want to buy this toy, you're going to have to go and save for it. That means you got to work for it. You got to do a couple of things. You got to have seed money for certain things. So, you know, talking to adults is one thing, but talking to your kids is completely different because you're changing your generation. It goes back to giving an inheritance, a mental inheritance of your children's children.
Yes.
Right.
So I had to give my dad, who we've talked about, we didn't have a great relationship as a kid, but the relationship, man, the relationship that me and Henry Abernathy, that we did have was about working. And he used to always say, and my dad ain't never professed salvation or that he was biblical, but he always say, a man don't work, he don't eat.
He don't eat.
And even as a little boy, when he owned the landscaping company, like, man, I can make your grass look immaculate. I just hate cutting grass because I was made to do it at the age of 7. But at age 7, I'll never forget, we were out in the truck, and my stepbrother at the time, he was like, man, I'm not doing nothing. And my dad was like, okay. I was out there pushing the lawnmower at 7. He's like, I ain't doing nothing. He's like, okay, don't worry about it. I'm like, man, you better come on. Man, we went to McDonald's. He bought everybody something and didn't feed that dude. He was like, you ain't gonna give me nothing to eat? He was like, no, you ain't work, you don't eat. That stuck with me for the rest of my life. A man don't work, you don't eat. Yeah. So now when I look at my children and their daughters, I got 2 girls. These girls are they both getting ready to go to college and all of that. They're doing the teenage thing, but they never not want to work. Like, I'm like, hey, can we go do something? Oh, Dad, I got to go to work. And then I had to sit back like, yeah, they got that naturally. And even their mom works all the time. So that's what we instilled in them, was about working. But now when I look at it, like my oldest daughter, she don't really want to work for nobody, but she's always working. But, you know, they're both licensed nail techs. And when they go to school, they do nails on campus and all of that. But that mentality of, I can work for myself, but I got to work, and being able to say, hey, if I want X, Y, and Z, I got to save for it. I got to put it to the side. I got to, you know, have an emergency fund when something happens. How do I do that? And as men, I made a post on Facebook how you get grumpy when your kids come and be like, hey, this is what's going on, I need it. And you may not even have it, but men always say, especially fathers, you know what? I'll figure it out. And that type
fathers to daughters, go ahead and put it real.
Like, yeah,
the father to the son. That's
fathers to daughters. When daughters come and say, hey, dad, this is going on, all right, I'm gonna figure it out. When your son comes, you probably like, all right, boy, you gonna have to figure it out with me. Right? But when you put that type of pressure and stress on yourself to figure something out financially that you really don't have, and trust me, I've been there. I got 2 girls and they get expensive. I always tell them, when y'all text me, it's cool. When I see your face pop up on that iPhone and you calling me, I know it's about to cost me at least $100. So I get it there. But sometimes I sit back and be like, man, if I had known what I know now when they were babies, it wouldn't be so tough. It wouldn't be so, I wouldn't get so grumpy. Like, what do you mean you need this? We just took care of it. But how do we now, because you talked about that hope, that lack of hope, because we're trying to keep the lights on. What steps can men take now in their 30s and 40s to put things in place that is hope for I can actually walk away from a job and still be self-sufficient and still be financially stable? I don't necessarily believe in being financially free, but we could talk about that later. But financially stable, where I can be self-sufficient and move around. What suggestions would you have for somebody in that situation?
Ironically speaking, I believe the younger generation has more hope than the generation that we have. And I said this already, because you've seen kids playing games for millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
At 13, 14, 16. So you have to go back and really research in your head this one concept. What if I can create streams of income where I no longer have to work for it? I don't care what it is. You want to be a barber? Great. Go open up a barber shop and have barbers work there. The business aspect of whatever your gift is, pass that on to the generations that come. You want to work in real estate? Go be an agency. Have realtors working with you and you teach them. You want to be in the financial industry? Have an agency and have agents working with you. There's something about being able to know that once you have a certain amount of things, investments, whatever the case is, where you turn on the spigot, you no longer have to worry about money again, because money is always going to follow you. And
it's crazy you said that, because in Ecclesiastics, it definitely says that you should have 7, maybe 8 different streams of income. Because
come on, man, drop it, man. Where is it at?
Thing is, Ecclesiastes 11:2. You know, I'm not always on the addresses, but we gonna look it up and see. But yeah, it definitely says you should have 7, maybe 8 streams of income. And now it's asking me all these things about, do I enjoy the Bible app? Yes, I enjoy the Bible app. But yeah, it says it in there. And when you think about the multiple streams of income that you have, if something goes awry in one, you can pivot. I think we talked about pivoting before on the show. You got to be able to pivot to a different way. So here, Ecclesiastes 11:1, cast thy bread into the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain and empty themselves upon the earth, if the tree falls for it. So what it is saying is, take your bread, which is considered, and you know, in the hood, we call money bread. Like, you got to make that bread. Take your bread and cast it amongst 7, maybe 8, because you don't know what's going to happen to one of them. Think about it. Like, man, we talking about, if you was a real estate investor back in 2008 and it went crazy and that's all you had, people was jumping off bridges. They was, man, all you had was your 401k, and your 401k took a dip. People was losing their mind because they work. But those people who have multiple streams, so like one of the streams I got to get back started, I own a vending machine. And like my daughters, they still own it. They like, Dad, what a vending machine at? We could be collecting money right now. I'm like, yep. All I got to do is find a place to put the vending machine. But that was a stream of income that was making money while we were someplace else. We go fill it up, we walk away, people come up, buy whatever it is, little bit becomes much when you place it in the master's hand. So when you talk about multiple streams, so just for me, obviously I'm a farmer's insurance agent. I still own Remember This Video Productions. My daughter's a nail techs. We got the vending machine. Then I'm getting ready to try to divulge into some real estate as well. So listen, you got to spread your bread around so that it comes back and work. Is money a currency, Ivory? What does that mean when people say money's a currency?
Man, that's a whole nother conversation.
So I just say, as money being a currency, currents move.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we get stuck in putting money in the mattress and just let it sit there. Sometimes you got to figure out what you can do to make your money work for you and not just work for the money. And then I know Ivory said a couple of episodes ago, we're no longer chasing money. You let your gifts make room for you so the money chases you. So let's go, brothers. It's so many different avenues that we can have money chase us with the talents and gifts that God has already given us. Sometimes you got to get off the couch, put that remote control down, and go do something. Like, just do it. Nike, you got Nike's on, just do it, baby. Like, I hear people all the time with these great ideas, and I'm like, well, when you gonna get started?
Yeah.
When you gonna get started?
You know what? We should have another episode talking about how to start with your talents and what to do. So I know that we're running towards the end, man. Is there any last words that you have to say? Because I think my last thing is, you got to get out there to vote. Whether you like a person, you don't like a person, whether you feel a certain way, you don't feel a certain way, your vote counts, because your vote could be one of a million. And, there's a lot of things that are going on. And I really don't care who you vote for as long as you vote for somebody. I know who I'm voting for, but we're going to leave it at that. You got something to say, man?
So I'm glad you brought that up real quick. So people have said, I've heard some of people say, look, I'm not good with either one of those candidates, so I don't even think I'm going to vote. And then I've heard some other Black African-American people get upset. Like, people died for you to have the right to vote and you won't go do it. Somebody said, and I had to kind of agree. He said, yeah, they died so that I have the right to vote, not that I have to vote. So his point was, if I got the right and I choose not to, I'm not being disrespectful to them. I'm just saying I don't agree with either one of these candidates. So because the voting system won't allow me to vote for other things and not vote for the president, I have to pick somebody, and I don't want to.
That's false, because they get a chance to write people in as they choose.
So, but you're just gonna pick somebody random to write in? Like,
hey, listen, you do it. A million people do it. Like, it doesn't really, like, if you are somebody that's really pushing grassroots and you want to make change, put power under an independent. Find somebody that really speaks to what you're really trying to do.
Right.
And go do it. It doesn't have to be Republican. It can't be just red and blue all the time, because a lot of the red believe what blue's saying. A lot of blue believe what red says too. So I just think that we have to give the power to the independent along with the individuals, and we don't have to just mass vote just because it's Democrat or just because it's Republican. You should think about things, and we have the right to give yourself the knowledge to actually do what you're supposed to do. That's our civic duty.
So definitely before November, we need to talk about this vote.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so listen, brothers, all I'm going to say is I'm one of those type of people that when I have an idea, I realize it didn't come from me. And when you get an idea, especially in your sleep or quiet time, that idea came from, and we Christians, it came from God. So if God is giving you an idea and he's talking to you, he gave you the green light. Go What are we waiting for? Stop letting
the green light.
Man, stop letting fear hinder you from making the move that God is giving you to do. And if you get a green light in heaven, don't let nothing on earth stop you. That's all I got to say.
Boy, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, an honor. Get out and vote.
Get out and vote. We got the right to vote.
You can meet me when you look this clean. I'm a class.
University of Man in the house. Yet another episode.
Hey, subscribe, share, tell people about us. Let's go.
Yeah, this dude named Fred Everett is amazing. Hey, how you feeling, man? Doing good with that? You'll help me right now. Hey, man. Great episode.
University of Man.
Let's do it.